so the Lions are back at it after having some extended time off with Thanksgiving. Of course, this week the Lions, we got the Jaguars, we got Jacksonville coming to town for week 13. And honestly, don't get too fooled by Jacksonville. The Jaguars are definitely trending in the right direction. Now, whether they can keep that kind of that upward trajectory going or not is yet to be seen. Honestly, the only way they can truly get to that level is fire Trent Baalke. Simple as that. But anyway, let's take a look at this game between the Lions and Jags this week against Jacksonville. So yeah, currently for the point spread, the current point spread has the Lions favored in this game by 1.5 points. So they're effectively favored by 2 points. Which is, I guess, pretty respectable. Because Jacksonville's a team to not sleep on this year. Especially with Jacksonville coming off beating Baltimore last week. Hey, some teams just match up better against others, you know? There are some teams you match up low against and some teams you don't. It happens. But yeah, anyway, Detroit, they lead the all-time series over Jacksonville 4-3, and Detroit's won the last 2 meetings against the Jaguars, including the last meeting between these two teams in Detroit at Ford Field. Jacksonville this year, they're 1-4 on the road this year. Detroit is 2-4 at home, so yeah, Jacksonville's been struggling pretty bad on the road. In terms of key players on offense, well, of course, at quarterback, you got the QB, Trevor Lawrence. And Lawrence has had an up-and-down career so far. Last year he was pretty bad as a rookie. Most of that you can blame it on Urban Meyer stagnating his development because Urban Meyer was so fucking trash. Doug Peterson is a bit of an upgrade. We'll talk about him in a little bit, but since Peterson came in, Trevor Lawrence has really bounced back, and he's starting to live up to that first-round hype he had in the draft a couple years ago. And honestly, it would be a damn shame if Jacksonville wasted and killed Lawrence's career, because Lawrence has been the most exciting prospect to come out of college since, Andrew Luck? Yeah. Of course, for the running back, they got Travis Etienne, but he's questionable for this game with a foot injury. Receiving core, they got names like Christian Kirk, Say Jones, former Lions Jamal Agnew, who's a great return specialist for punt and kick returns. And you also got Marvin Jones, the former Lion, too. The Jaguars are without Calvin Ridley, who they acquired from the Falcons in the deadline, since Ridley is still serving his 1-year ban for betting on NFL games last year. Honestly, 2 things for Calvin Ridley. 3 things, actually. 1, in those type of situations, make sure you have a proper burner account. 2, make sure you do what Chris Carter does in this situation, have a fall guy for it. Or 3, just beat the shit out of a woman next time. Then he would have got fucking nothing for it, since the NFL likes violence on women. Yeah, NFL's got a great penalty system. Beat the crap out of a woman, get next to nothing. Bet on NFL games. Get a 1-year ban. Yep. 10 out of 10 discipline, NFL. Really good job. Really good job. Like, free Calvin Ridley. He did no wrong. Anyway, continuing on, tight ends, you got Evan Ingram and Dan Arnold. Defense is where a lot of defense has some playmakers here. Defense, you got on the D-line, you got names like Roy Robertson Harris, you got Foley, Fadakasi, and then the defensive end and pass rushers. The pass rushers are loaded. You got Trayvon Walker, the number 1 overall pick, who's had an up-and-down rookie season so far. You also got Devin Lloyd. You got Chad Muma, Josh Allen, Forsaid Owankon. And then the secondary, you got names like Darius Williams, Tyson Campbell, Rashawn Jenkins, Andre Sisco, and Andrew Wingard. Of course, the head coach of this squad is Doug Peterson, who's going to try and bring some stability to a Jaguars team that's been a complete fucking mess. And, the Jaguars need to get an adult in the locker room. Keep in mind, Doug Peterson wasn't even the Jaguars' first choice for head coach. Their first choice was Byron Leftwich. They even botched the interview of Kevin O'Connell, who would end up going on to become the head coach for the Vikings, and look how that's turned out for O'Connell so far. While for Yeah, Byron Leftwich, they botched the entire thing because Leftwich said he wanted to join the Jaguars, that Trent Baalke was still the GM. And the Jaguars, for some fucking reason, even though all signs pointed to him being fired, that Baalke needed to be fired, they kept him around for one more year. Honestly, Shahid Khan is just repeating some of the same mistakes that William Clay Ford made with the Lions. Bringing the wrong people in to run the show, and then giving them the reins for way too goddamn long, and then giving those wrong people that they hired too many undeserved second chances. That's one of the main reasons why the Lions were a shit show for over 2 decades and counting. At least Sheila Ford hasn't shown anything to be near as bad as her parents, but she gets a bad rep because of her parents. Yeah. Anyway, continuing on. Question is though, how long will Doug Peterson last in Jacksonville? I mean, considering how his last stint in Philadelphia ended, with that civil war between him and Carson Wentz, and then the Eagles said fuck this, and in a choice where they had to choose either Peterson or Wentz, Eagles chose option C and canned both of them. And yeah, that option C worked. So yeah, everyone's saying that you have to choose one or the other. You have to choose either A or B. No, you don't have to choose A or B. You can always choose option C. Option C is always an option. Where option C is neither, can them both. Option C is always an option. The question is, though, does anyone have the fucking balls to pull the trigger on option C? And it turns out Philadelphia did have those balls. And they were huge balls. And it was for the best for the Eagles. But yeah, honestly, for Doug Peterson, I'm going to give Peterson's reign at least 3 years before it starts to become toxic. I think Doug Peterson might have the capability to become the NFL's version of fucking Mike Keenan, John Tortorella. Where he's a good coach for the short term, but the longer he stays with a team, the more toxic it becomes. I give it about 2 or 3 years tops before Peterson's gone. And in the Jaguars kickstart, another rebuild on top of a rebuild on top of another rebuild. The offensive coordinator is Press Taylor, and the defensive coordinator is Mike Caldwell, by the way. In terms of Jaguars rankings this year, this offense has actually been pretty solid for the Jaguars, because the Jaguars offense is a top 10 unit in 10th. They're 13th in the passing game, but they're a top 10 unit in the running game with the 9th ranked rushing offense. So Trevor Lawrence has actually had a really good season. I mean, it really just shows what happens when you give Trevor Lawrence some weapons and some tools to succeed with. The defense, still a lot to be desired, but it's a bit of an improvement over last year, as the Jaguars defense is ranked 24th. They're 25th against the pass game, but they're mid-pack in the rushing game against the run, and as the 15th ranked unit against the run. So yeah, the offense has been good for the Jaguars. The defense, still a lot more to be desired. I mean, maybe that could improve if Trayvon Walker ever lives up to his round 1 hype. And yeah, also this game, it'll be a battle of the top 2 picks from last year's draft. Trayvon Walker versus Aiden Hutchinson. See, I think definitely the key is, well, Jacksonville's offensive line has had some issues protecting Lawrence this year. Lawrence has taken a beating. Maybe Jacksonville should have took Akeem Ekwonu or Evan Neal at number 1 overall. Hell, Doug Peterson wanted an offensive lineman at number 1. Trent Baalke wanted Trayvon Walker at the first overall pick last year. And Shahid Khan wanted Aiden Hutchinson at number 1 overall. In the end, Baalke won out overall 3. Well, let me just say this. Let me just tell you how bad Trent Baalke is. When Doug Peterson and Shahid Khan have more fucking common sense than Trent Baalke, then there is a fucking problem. Just gonna put that out there. Because Trent Baalke's option, he didn't want to take a proven commodity in Aiden Hutchinson. He wanted to take the idea of a top-tier pass rusher in Trayvon Walker. Because Trayvon Walker's not a proven one yet. He was an idea of it, not a proven one. The idea that he becomes something. And usually when you take the idea of a top talent player, that usually tends to blow up in your face. Whether it does for Jacksonville or not, yet to be seen. I mean, given Jacksonville's track record, it's probably going to be the first option. It's probably going to be bad. Considering that Jaguars, this is the same Jaguars team that took Blaine Gabbert over fucking J.J. Watt. And the same Jaguars team that took Blake Bortles over, let's say, Khalil Mack, Mike Evans, Aaron Donald, and Odell Beckham Jr. Yeah, this Jaguars. Yeah, what makes you think that they're gonna get it done with Trayvon Walker? I think they made a mistake because in a few years down the line, they're gonna be remembered for taking Trayvon Walker over Aiden Hutchinson and Sauce Gardner. Hell, they kind of already fucked up too in 2017 when they took Leonard Fournette over Jamal Adams. And a few others that got drafted too later on. Even Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. My God, sorry, Trayvon Walker, best case scenario is he probably gets traded to, let's say, the Rams in a few years for more first round picks to kickstart a round out a rebuild because, yeah, fuck them picks. But yeah, just this Jacksonville team is a mess. Like, this is a game the Lions should win. But don't sleep on Trevor Lawrence, because I think Trevor Lawrence is starting to get, because he's been getting better and better as the years progressed. And I think you just got to get pressure to Lawrence. Like, I think you get pressure to Lawrence and you can stop the run. You stop that entire Jacksonville offense. And that run game might be challenging, especially if Travis Etienne doesn't play with his foot injury this week. I think you just got to get some pressure on him. You just got to feed the ball to Swift and Jamal Williams. You know, I think part of this also depends on if Jamison Williams and Romeo Okwara both get cleared this week. They're saying it's very unlikely, but you never know what could happen. But I believe if anyone's wondering, for Jamison Williams, he has to be cleared by next week to be able to play this year. If he's not cleared in time for the Vikings game next week, then Jamison is out for the entire year by NFL rules. So in order for Williams to play this year, he has to be cleared for Minnesota. If not, he's out for the year. But yeah, like I'm not going to sleep on the Jaguars, but this is a game the Lions should win in my mind of minds. I think this is where the Lions go into a playoff mode. Like, let's be real, if the Lions want to make the playoffs this year, they have to start winning games. And I think it starts this week. You know, being 3 games out. Like, I do think the Lions can win out the rest of the year. I think they can easily win 5 of their last 6, or maybe all their last 6 games. Like, I do think they can beat the Vikings next week. I do think they can beat the Vikings. I'll talk about that next week. But I do think the Lions can beat Minnesota. But I do think the Lions can win out and maybe put themselves in a playoff position, but they're going to need a lot of help, though. The good news is the Giants and the Commies, they play this week, and if the Lions win, they'll gain a game on one of those two and be 2 games out of a playoff spot. Like, they're still in it. They just need a lot of help. They just need some help, that's all. Whether they can get that help or not is yet to be seen. But I do think the Lions do win this game. I think the Lions get this game. I'm going to say the Lions win this one 27-21. I think it's going to be a decent scoring game, but I'm going to take the Lions to win by 6. I'll take Detroit by 6 over Jacksonville. Like in my mind of minds, I do think the Lions beat the Jaguars. Plus, considering that Doug Peterson is 0-2 against the Lions all time. Like, Peterson has never been able to figure out Detroit, even when he was in Philadelphia. Like, hell, Detroit even gave Doug Peterson his first career loss as a head coach. And I think the Lions continue that trend. I think the Lions continue to own Doug Peterson. And I think the Lions get there. I think the Lions get back on track this weekend. They get the win against Jacksonville. And potentially put themselves within 2 games of a playoff spot. Like I said, I think Detroit could do it. And with the Rams this year, and with the Rams struggling this year, and the odds are the Rams may not win another game the rest of the year. So there's a good chance that the first round pick they got from the Rams this year, the Lions could end up with a top 2 or top 3 pick this year. So yeah, really, the Lions don't even need to tank this year. We can just have the Rams fucking do it for us because Stafford's potentially done for the year because he has a concussion and he had a neck injury. Cooper Kupp is probably done for the year. Allen Robinson's done for the year for the Rams, and Aaron Donald is probably done for the year. Like, their 4 big pieces on that team are all probably done for the year. Like, there's a good chance Rams don't win the rest of the year. The question is, though, can that pick get ahead of Shatoylan in the draft order? No, I think it can. Because I think the Chicago will fuck up the tank and win, especially since Chicago's playing Green Bay this week. And you know how much Chicago wants to win that game. But anyway, in my mind of minds, I think the Lions get this one over Jacksonville. I think they beat them. I got the Lions winning by 6. Like, the Lions should win this game, and they need to take care of business this week against Jacksonville. And I do think they get it done against the Jaguars. See, I got the Lions winning, and I think Aiden Hutchinson's going to ball out, and he's going to prove to Trent Baalke in the Jaguars front office that Baalke made a mistake taking Trayvon Walker over Hutchinson. And considering that Hutchinson has had a better season so far than Trayvon Walker, I think that will be further justification. But anyway, though, I'm out. Let's go handle business. And here's another reason why I think the Lions will win, because keep this in mind. The last time that Michigan played for a Big Ten championship game, it was last year against Iowa, which they hammered them 42-3. And then the Lions won the following day against the Vikings. And I do think, let's be real, I do think Michigan will handle their business against Purdue and win to go back-to-back. And I think it'll be deja vu where Michigan wins the Big Ten title again. And then the Lions win the following day against Jacksonville. Well, I'll just say here, if the Lions make the playoffs this year, their playoffs start this week. Every game from here on out for the Lions is a playoff game. Last 6 games are all playoff games, backs against the wall. But anyway, these last 6 weeks, regardless if they make the playoffs or not, the Lions are definitely trending in the right direction. If they don't make it this year, 100% they will next year. But anyway, I'm out. Let's go get the dub against Jacksonville, and let's go get that Big Ten title.